They all said positive things. At least I talked about a half dozen folks who participated, all positive across the board. And the White House did send a top five official. Those are heavily involved in the policy here. And again, regardless of your view of Joe Biden personally, the staff are very, very important. And especially for a week like this, given the whole political apparatus around Joe Biden, for the White House to take an hour of their time and have a constructive meeting. And again, it didn't seem like it was kind of a BS meeting. Every single participant I talked to said it was a very legit meeting.
This content is brought to you by Uphold, which is one of the top crypto platforms out there, which allows you to easily buy, sell, trade Bitcoin and the top altcoins in the market. Uphold lists 260 plus cryptocurrencies. They also allow you to trade precious metals such as gold, silver, palladium, and platinum. I've been a user of Uphold since 2018, so I can vouch for this platform. They have full transparency reports, and they don't commingle or lend out your funds. They also have a great product called Vault, which is an assisted self-custody product. Vault allows you to maintain custody of your funds, and the keys are split. So Uphold holds one and you hold two. And if there's any issues, if you lose one of your keys, Uphold will help restore these keys and you can maintain access to your funds. It's 24/7 instant trading. It's trustless. So this is a great feature that can give you peace of mind where you don't have to worry about if you lose your private keys and much more. So if you'd like to learn more about Uphold, please visit the link in the description. Welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast. I'm your host, Tony Edward. With me is Ron Hammond, who's Director of Government Relations at the Blockchain Association. Ron, good to see you.
Likewise, Tony. Always good to chat. So plenty to cover. So looking forward to getting to all of it.
Yeah, Ron, sometimes it's hard to keep up. There's so many things happening in DC with politics, with elections and so forth as it relates to crypto. Let's start with the news that's hot off the iron here, because the news just broke that the vote to overturn President Biden's veto of SAB 121's repeal did not make it through. It failed. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so about 2 hours ago in the building right behind me, the House got together to repeal SAB 121, the veto repeal, actually. So again, recall for those who are catching up here, that's what is preventing the rule from the SEC from banks being involved in custodying crypto. And so it passed the House with 21 Democrats back in May. It passed the Senate with 11 Democrats, including Chuck Schumer. So you had the lead Republican and the lead Democrat in Congress voting for it. Biden vetoed it, marking actually the most bipartisan bill, the most Democrats ever and Republicans ever to vote on a bill vetoed by President Biden. So the most bipartisan bill vetoed by the White House, and the House decided to bring it to the floor to overturn that veto, which is already going to be tough because, again, they didn't have the numbers already. If you just have the 21 Democrats and all the Republicans. But the final number actually still was 21 voted for on the Democrat side and all the Republicans to override the veto. It failed. That was expected. But I wouldn't say it's done yet by any means. Let's not forget. It's in multiple pieces of legislation. For example, like FIT 21. It's also in the Lemons Gillibrand bill. So I think, SAB 121 is not a dead issue by any means, just because we had this legislative defeat, you could say. First off, it was a massive momentum builder, at least here in DC for crypto. But also, I think it's a really good indication that, hey, we have a pretty decent amount of Democrats and senior Democrats, too, who support crypto. And that was the first time that we got them on record. So that's a huge, huge moment. And I would not say SAB 121 is dead by any means.
Yeah, that's a great point, because it kicked off, like you said, the initial vote to get it repealed kicked off a really great momentum for the industry and regulations and much more, which led into the FIT 21 passing as well. I did notice that some people were saying that despite this loss, there's budgetary constraints that could be put to the SEC, so they can't use their budget towards enforcing this rule.
Correct. When it comes to these appropriations for each agency, the SEC does collect it through fees or through penalties that they get through certain enforcement actions that crypto companies have paid into. Obviously, depending on your view of how you view those companies and the enforcement regime at the SEC, but no matter. That is a ploy that we've seen, especially when it's a minority party. So in this case, we've seen the Republicans in the House really put forward trying to cut the SEC's budget. The problem is that they have a Senate that's run by the Democrats and very unlikely to take those cuts from the Republicans. And again, that's just kind of gets more into general politics. They do this for pretty much every agency, left, right, and center. So I'm not shocked by any means that this will really not advance forward. But again, it does show that there's a disgruntled view at the SEC, but also about Gensler in particular. And we've seen that interest shared with Democrats on a variety of issues so far. And Democrats have put on the record and have publicly stated against Gensler's views at the SEC. So, I think we'll just kind of continue to build the momentum up. But, there's a lot of industries, not just crypto, that have been really slighted by the SEC. And a lot of folks in Congress are listening.
Now, Congressman Khanna, who's a Democrat, also put together a crypto roundtable yesterday. It seemed this was his effort to try to get folks in the Biden administration to think differently about crypto, given that, as you mentioned, many Democrats in the House and the Senate were opening up more to crypto, but yet, Biden ultimately vetoed SAB 121. I know you weren't there at the roundtable, but Kristen, who heads up the Blockchain Association, was there. What are some of the takeaways you heard?
Yeah, I was over in the Senate dealing with the Agriculture Committee, which I'm sure we'll get into that next. But Khanna, for those who don't know, he represents the Silicon Valley area. And actually, he's been pretty good on crypto for quite some time. He's been very, very supportive of it. It's been speaking at conferences for quite some time as well. His staff has been someone I personally worked with a lot as we're co-sponsors of the Token Taxonomy Act, which is the bill I worked on with Warren Davidson, which was that bipartisan crypto regulatory framework. And we've seen several iterations now turn to FIT 21 because of that. And Khanna supported FIT 21. So this is Khanna really taking the lead. He does view himself as a leader in the Progressive Party. And a lot of folks think it's more the squad, but Khanna does represent kind of more of a tech optimistic view on the progressive side. That's very different from some on the other side of the progressive front. And again, this is like Richie Torres here. This is your Khanna. And they brought a lot of these execs from the crypto industry together, as well as several colleagues from the House and the Senate and the White House, who were all Democrats, who all came in to hear them out. And every folks I talked to, both including my CEO, Kristen Smith, I talked to several folks from Block, for example. We also had Kraken there as well, Coinbase, and several others who participated, like Paul Grewal and such. They all said positive things. At least I talked about a half dozen folks who participated, all positive across the board. The White House did send a top 5 official, those who are heavily involved in the policy here. And again, regardless of your view of Joe Biden personally, the staff are very, very important. And especially for a week like this, given the whole political apparatus around Joe Biden, for the White House to take an hour of their time and have a constructive meeting. And again, it didn't seem like it was kind of a BS meeting. Every single participant I talked to said it was a very legit meeting. Now, the thing is it too little, too late?
Yeah,
we'll see. But the one thing I will say, and I've heard this repeated twice now from participants, the White House has recognized there's a voter base now. And that was something that a lot of folks 3 months ago, 6 months ago, really didn't think it was a thing. It is very apparent that with such a critical mess right now with the Democrat side with the election, they need all the votes they can get. And crypto could be that vote that helps, swing it for Ohio and Montana and these really key swing states.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of scratching my head wondering, what are the Democrats doing? I'm not here to say to vote for Democrat or Republican, but rather it's the stance, right? It's the perception they're giving up that we hate this technology, we don't like it, and so forth. I know that's not 100% true, but that is the perception, and that's what people are seeing. And in a tight presidential race, I could see that they're going to lose some good votes here. Maybe people who were going to vote for them, but they're like, wait a minute, they're trying to take money out of my pocket. They're going after something I'm invested in, especially on the younger folks side. So I don't know, to your point, is it a bit too late,
I mean, to your point, like a lot of the times they did trust a lot of the crypto authority and the crypto views for the Democrat Party, as you usually do, to the regulator, or at least to the expert that is viewed that way, like the person who taught at MIT, for example. And that has backfired tremendously. And the whole Elizabeth Warren really doubling down on that campaign effort, saying, I'm building the anti-crypto army, and how they just got trolled and memed to existence. That now Democrat members and their staff are joking with me about it on Capitol Hill. It's funny to see just how many missteps, both politically, but also just on the enforcement front, that have led to Democrats to the position they are. And again, they've kind of put themselves a little bit in this mess. But I really want to stress to a lot of folks here, it's especially with Trump leaning more and more into it, it's not all the Democrats, and it's not all the Republicans who are bad or good for crypto. It really bleeds over so much. Again, we said age is usually the barometer here, that we've seen that where the support really shows a lot more on the younger side. So let's remember that, because regardless of what happens in November, odds are we're going to be having to work with Republicans and Democrats, regardless of who's in power. So if we make this into a issue where it's R's versus D's, it's going to be like the border situation, or to pick your issue. A lot of times, it's going to be the courts deciding it, and it's going to be one side fighting it for decades to come, and that's not good for the innovation. That's not good for certainty. So let's keep the bipartisanship moving, but also let's show where the Democrats have faltered, and that is trusting Gary Gensler.
Yeah. And look, Donald Trump is taking advantage of this, as any political candidate would, right? You try to expose your opponent's weaknesses, and he's going to be speaking at Bitcoin 2024. There was rumors, and now it's confirmed. What are you expecting there?
I was hearing about it for a little bit from a couple of folks in my circles. I do talk to the Trump team pretty frequently. Because I do handle the more Republican side of the aisle, so that's my job. They have been heavily leaning into this. What's been really interesting is Polymarket has been seeing how Polymarket has really brought to the mainstream more both betting markets, but also that crypto component that kind of allegedly got Trump more into the whole crypto space to begin with. So he's realized that there's a base here. He's been saying it at recent rallies about crypto. He was in Miami recently. Did not say it, unfortunately. I was hoping to see a little bit of that maybe in the debate. But regardless, though, I think it really does show that, why folks like JD Vance, for example, are really trying to show that, hey, I'm really good on crypto, sir. And also I believe in this technology. I sit on Senate banking. Folks who are vying for their VP slots, like Tim Scott, those in Congress, they're the ones who are in the Senate right now. And there's active legislation on market structure, for example. And the question is, where are these guys going to stand up, and where do they come out with active legislation, but also them vying for the VP slot? When I talk about election year, a lot of stuff like legislatively falls to the wayside. It's kind of these situations where we have a lot of politics coming about with the Democrats with Biden, and the Trump situation being pro-crypto. These things really just add a whole variety of chaos and factor to Capitol Hill. It usually results in a gridlock here. So we're just trying to make sure, again, we keep the bipartisanship regardless of who's in the White House and who's not.
I don't know if it's too early to talk about this, but I know Fairshake, they raised over $160 million. They've been supporting pro-crypto candidates. And don't get me wrong, it's both Democrats and Republicans who are pro-crypto. Obviously, I think the lion's share is more on the Republican side. But there were some interesting election results, not too long ago out of New York. We saw months ago on Super Tuesday as well, where these people who have aligned themselves to Elizabeth Warren, being very anti-crypto, while it may not be 100% the factor that made them lose, it is a contributing factor. What are you seeing and hearing on that front?
If there's one thing Congress cares about, it's making sure they have a job next go around. And we have seen that happen with the PACs. Actually, the Fairshake PAC has done a really good job, in my opinion. I've used to run campaigns in Texas before. I came here to DC. So I understand, money is a very important lifeline and the lifeblood for campaigns. And we've seen Fairshake really choose good candidates. I think, again, don't quote me here, but I think it's 33 wins, 2 losses. That's incredible. Again, these are primaries. This is not the Republican versus the Democrat. For most parts, it's usually the Republican versus Republican, Democrat versus Democrat. And that's a major, major thing to watch. So the New York races, again, it was actually a Democrat and a Republican that won for those respective races. That was a huge thing. Actually, Utah for the Senate. John Curtis, soon to be Senator Curtis, likely. I met with him, I chatted with him. And actually, that's one thing I've been seeing is that the Fairshake folks, or at least the PAC folks, have really gotten the folks engaged that when they do come to DC, they're usually coming to the Blockchain Association or to other groups. They're actively coming to us saying, hey, I'm just here to learn. So I spoke with Representative Curtis. It's cool now to see him moving up to this Senate level pretty soon. But I met with Democrats too on the candidate side who are really engaged or want to learn more, and they really range the gambit. So that's been really exciting. Again, I know a lot of folks say, money talks, and that's how, the thing won. But, crypto's been here for a while. As someone who's been on the lobbying side for 5 years, it's a groundswell. It took a long time to get here. It just doesn't happen overnight, or, when you throw $100 million into a pack, these things take a long time. And I think just crypto has a bunch of momentum, like the votes in the House and the Senate. That's why things are going really good. The vibe shift has been incredibly noticeable here in DC.
Now, I did want to ask you about Rostin Behnam, Chair Rostin Behnam of the CFTC, and his testimony yesterday. He made some very interesting comments, which are in direct contrast to Chair Gensler of the SEC. He says 70 to 80% of these crypto assets are not securities. Um, it seems like the turf war is heating up here. And what were some of your takeaways and what might be the next steps there?
If as I was there for that hearing over in the Senate when the Khanna Roundtable was going on, and actually, I think I recall too that one of the senators, I forgot exactly who, said, if we legislate that we give you all the crypto markets, I think it was Roger Marshall. He said, would you be equipped to do that? And he's like, whatever Congress wants, we're happy to do it, and we have the experience to do that. And it really shows that the CFTC is taking a more proactive stance here, as they have been for quite some time. And also working with Congress. They're directly working with the Senate Ag Committee, it seems like, to find a market structure bill. It doesn't seem to be fit 21 in the House, but at least to find a path forward on something that the Democrats at least can lead up with Chair Behnam, and show like, hey, look, this is fully functional, fully regulated, and really gets around the issue that we've had in the Senate, which is Senate banking. And Senate banking has been chaired by Sherrod Brown from Ohio, who's in a tough reelection. But he really hasn't cared too much about crypto legislation. He does sit on Senate Ag. He did say actually after the hearing that he wants to work with the Ag Committee on crypto legislation. But every single time in the past 4 years that it's really come to his desk to work on crypto legislation or to sign off on a stablecoin bill, we've really faltered here. So I think it's good that you see the Senate Ag Committee at least taking steps here. We don't know what their final bill is going to be like, but they're short on time. It seems to be soon. But there's a non-zero chance that there's something that has a chance of moving here. So I keep an eye on Senate agriculture. We're going to probably have a lot more conversations about that in the next coming weeks. We could see a vote. So I'm just kind of warning folks here, the House did its turn, and a lot of tensions on the Senate. I know the Biden drama is going to derail a lot of stuff, as it has already. But we really could start seeing crypto come back up pretty soon. So just stand by. It could be a really hectic end to the summer.
Ron, a quick follow-up question on the Biden situation. I know this is a whole other can of worms, right? Not anything to do with crypto. Let's say Biden does drop out and someone comes in. How do you think that affects crypto policy, given that, they are going to be focused on trying to win? Was it positive? Is it negative? Or we don't know yet? It's too
yeah, this kind of becomes that election year stuff. You just have that October surprise before November. You have that, it always happens. It always happens every presidential election year. And this is when, again, folks retreat to their sides and they start really teeing up messaging bills and actually this is kind of the situation for Congress, at least. They had to decide, hey, do we start supporting messaging for our president or our candidate and say, he needs to be carrying this message? Or should we try to move these bipartisan bills we've worked on for the past year and a half this Congress? That decision really hasn't been made yet because of the decision with Biden. So I think it does grind everything to a standstill. It's got to get resolved soon. The Democrats do have their convention at the end of August, but they're running out of time. And every single week that they keep not having that decision made, or at least a consensus among the party, it grinds everything to a halt. And Republicans are going to pause anything that they're working on too to say, hey, let's push down this bruise as much as we can, because they're the ones going to get hit on the media side, and we want to make sure we win November. Everyone wants to win in November, so that's going to be the unfortunate thing. And for folks like Patrick McHenry or Debbie Stabenow, these are two members who are very senior, who put a lot of time into crypto legislation. They're retiring, so for them, it doesn't matter who wins November. They're not going to be here in DC. So the question is, how far can they push forward to move their legislation against a backdrop of a really gridlock and partisan DC? And it's bad now, but it's going to get really bad as November kind of approaches. So a lot can happen. So just stand tuned. Again, and if Trump talks about crypto, that can throw everything into a mix as well. And really, we don't know where we are. We are in brand new territory here. So I wish I could have a better answer for you, but it's a lot of possibilities in game theory. That's my job, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Look, it's a tough situation, even outside of crypto, right? There's so many things hanging in a balance here. So many people, even on Democrats, trying to figure out what they want to do. Some are saying step down. Some are saying no, stay. It's a mess, but we'll have to wait and see how things progress. Now, I saw a clip yesterday of Congressman Wiley talking to Fed Chair Jerome Powell, asking him, "Are you ready to work on stablecoin regulations?" Jerome Powell said yes. What are you hearing about that, and could that be part of, maybe some of the votes that are coming up?
Yeah, we've been hearing this from the Biden administration for quite some time, dating back to, just we want Congress to work on stablecoin regulation and especially stablecoins. That issue is so close to the finish line. The right people are talking. It's the senior members of Congress. It is the White House. It is Treasury and the federal and the Fed in particular. And allegedly between, those three folks, likely the Fed probably, the concern seems to be the issue over state regulation of stablecoin issuers. And you have a split here where you have folks who are like a Democrat NYDFS saying, we can do this. We have a Republican Wyoming saying, we can do this. But then you have a Democrat administration saying, no, you can't. And that's, again, that has to get resolved in some way, shape, or form. But everyone keeps saying, we want to work on stablecoin legislation. Meanwhile, the MiCA just went into effect at the end of June, and they have a whole stablecoin regime in place. And the White House asked for this in 2021, and we're still here. So, the thing is, we're telling a lot of folks, like, look, this needs to get resolved. These are important issues that we really have to figure out. But time is short here. And are we really going to restart this again in January 2025? And this, there is a lot of folks, to our point about calculations and political calculus, there's a growing amount of folks saying, hey, we might be out of majority soon. Let's just get as much done as we can now, versus the opposite of saying, hey, we might be in power soon. Let's just stop everything we can right now and wait till 2025. And that's the politics that we really want to avoid when it comes to crypto.
Boy, I hope they can get something through, even just get stablecoin regulations out of the House like they did with the market structure bill. And maybe the market structure bill can go through the Senate. And then I know it has to go to a president, but if we can get it through the Senate, that would be a big win.
Yeah, and again, I sound like a little pessimistic here. Again, legislation always has in the single-digit chances, but there's chances, and we have made incredible progress. The right folks are happening, the right things are happening politically. So I'm just telling folks that the momentum's there. We have a lot of it. The question is kind of what happens next amid a backdrop of who's going to be on the ticket in November. That's kind of a hard thing to overcome. So we just got to figure battles out when time comes. And in the meantime, the SEC will keep doing their thing. And that's the unfortunate truth, is that we might be getting great things from the White House from, the events of the Khanna Roundtable. But the SEC wasn't there. And the SEC has been against, consensus recently. And they've been really still aggressive, even amid the backdrop of the White House trying to tell them to ease it up with the ETF approval and stuff. So it's teeing up a really interesting November, and we'll see how it happens.
Wow, Ron, I'm like half excited, half scared, because I'm just like, what's going on,
We're living constantly, Tony.
Yeah. Ron, always great insights, my friend. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.